Chosen one, this is not the season where you question whether heaven has seen you. This is the season where you finally understand that nothing you survived was wasted. Nothing you endured was ignored. And nothing that tried to break you was stronger than the hand that carried you. You have walked through nights that seemed longer than language could explain. You have stood in places where no applause found you, where no human voice fully understood what it cost you to keep going, and where the silence itself felt like a test. Yet here you are, still breathing, still standing, still able to hear this message with something alive inside your spirit. That alone is a sign. You did not remain because life was easy. You remained because God placed something unshakable in you before the battle ever began. There were moments when you thought you were falling behind, but in truth you were being separated. There were moments when doors closed with such force that it felt personal, but in truth you were being redirected. There were seasons when people misread your quietness as weakness, your patience as passivity, and your tears as proof that you were losing. But heaven saw something they could not see. Heaven saw a soul under pressure that still refused to curse its calling. Heaven saw a heart that bent but did not surrender. Heaven saw a life being marked by fire, not ruined by it. That is why your story cannot end in defeat. You have already passed through too much darkness to belong to ordinary outcomes. You need to hear this clearly. The weight you carried was not random. The delay was not meaningless. The confusion was not proof that God had left you behind. You were being tested in places where no one could grade you, refined in moments where no audience could validate you, and strengthened in private ways that the public would never understand until the day your rising begins. What looked like loss was building discernment. What felt like rejection was building endurance. What seemed like abandonment was teaching you how to depend on God with a depth that comfort never could have produced. That is why you are different now. You cannot return to the version of yourself that needed constant signs, constant reassurance, and constant permission from people who never carried your assignment. Something in you has changed. You do not panic the way you used to. You do not chase what drains you the way you used to. You do not collapse under every opinion, every delay, every disappointment the way you once did. You have learned how to hold your peace while storms speak loudly around you. You have learned how to keep moving while answers are still forming. You have learned that not every closed door is an attack, and not every painful season is punishment. Some things had to fall away because they were too small for where God is taking you. Some relationships had to shift because they were built for the old you, not the anointed version of you now emerging from the fire. Some dreams had to die because they were born from survival, not from destiny. That is why this moment matters so much. You are not just recovering from what happened. You are rising from what refined you. There is a difference. Recovery only brings you back to where you were. Rising brings you into who you were meant to become. And what God is doing in you now is not a return to the past. It is an unveiling. It is the revealing of strength you did not know you possessed, clarity you did not know you carried, and authority that could only be forged through endurance. The fire did not erase your identity. It exposed it. The pressure did not destroy your purpose. It purified it. The delay did not cancel your future. It prepared your timing. So do not speak over your life as if you are forgotten. Do not call yourself late when God calls you prepared. Do not label yourself broken when heaven calls you refined. There is a holy difference between being damaged and being developed. What happened to you was not the end of your meaning. It was the making of your foundation. The reason you can carry more now is because you have already survived what once would have crushed you. The reason your spirit notices what others ignore is because suffering taught you to listen more deeply. The reason your heart has become both softer and stronger is because God was teaching you how to carry power without losing compassion. Chosen one, the enemy wanted you to misread the fire. He wanted you to think the pain meant disqualification. He wanted you to believe the struggle meant you were abandoned. He wanted you to grow bitter in the dark and careless with your calling. But you did not become what tried to wound you. You did not let hardship rewrite your name. You did not let confusion become your master. Even in weakness, even in tears, even in the kind of exhaustion that made you wonder how much more you could take, there was still a yes inside you. Quiet maybe, trembling maybe, barely audible at times, but it was there, and that yes mattered more than you know. So today, stand still for a moment and let your spirit catch up with what heaven has already declared. You are not merely the one who survived the storm. You are the one who was shaped inside it. You are not merely the one who escaped the fire. You are the one who came out carrying evidence of divine workmanship. And because this word is reaching you now, at this exact point in your journey, receive it as confirmation that your season of hidden refining is not meaningless. Type 111 in the comments if your spirit knows God has been preparing you through every battle you could not explain. What comes next will not be built on luck, noise, or human approval. It will be built on what endured when everything else was shaken. It will be built on the prayers you whispered when no one was listening, on the restraint you showed when anger invited you to strike back, on the faith you held when the evidence around you looked empty. You are marked, chosen one, marked by survival, marked by refinement, marked by the quiet signature of God on a life that refused to quit. And this is only the beginning of your rise. Chosen one, the test that shaped you most was not always the test you recognized while you were living through it. It did not arrive with a clear announcement. It did not tell you that heaven was watching your reactions, your restraint, your faithfulness, and your ability to stay clean in spirit while life felt unfair. It came hidden inside ordinary days, painful delays, private disappointments, and moments where you had to choose obedience without any visible reward. You thought you were simply enduring a hard season, but God was measuring something much deeper. He was looking at what you would do when you had the chance to become bitter, proud, reckless, or impatient. That is how divine testing often works. It does not always feel dramatic while it is happening. Sometimes it feels like silence. Sometimes it feels like waiting. Sometimes it feels like being overlooked while less faithful people move ahead of you. Yet in those very moments, your character is being weighed. That is why David speaks so powerfully into this message. David was anointed long before he was elevated. He was chosen long before he was crowned. The oil came early, but the throne did not. That gap between anointing and arrival became the place of testing. David knew what it meant to carry a promise that had not yet become visible. He knew what it meant to receive a word from God and then return to fields that looked too small for the future spoken over him. Imagine that for a moment. The prophet had come. The oil had been poured. Heaven had marked him. Yet after that sacred moment, David still had to go back and tend sheep. No palace opened that day. No crown was placed on his head. No public celebration confirmed what God had declared. That was the beginning of the hidden test. You understand that kind of tension. You have felt the weight of knowing there is more over your life while your surroundings still look ordinary. You have sensed that God has called you for something greater. Yet your present season has seemed small, repetitive, and even lonely. That is one of the first great tests of the chosen. Will you remain faithful in the field when your spirit knows you were marked for more? Will you keep honoring God in the unseen place before anyone ever sees the evidence of your calling? David passed that test. He learned worship in private. He learned courage in private. He learned how to protect what belonged to his father before he was ever trusted with what belonged to a nation. The field was not a punishment. It was preparation. Then another test came. David faced Goliath, and that moment is often remembered as a public victory. But it was built on private formation. He did not suddenly become brave in front of the giant. He had already developed trust in God when nobody was watching. He had fought lions and bears in secret. He had learned that the same God who preserved him in isolation would strengthen him in confrontation. That is why he could stand before a threat that terrified trained soldiers. He was not drawing confidence from appearance, title, or human approval. He was drawing confidence from a hidden history with God. This matters for you now because some of your current battles feel larger than your visible position. But they are not larger than the God who has been training you in secret. Yet David's deeper test did not end with Goliath. In many ways, it began there. After victory came jealousy. After recognition came opposition. After songs were sung about him, Saul turned against him. David, the anointed one, became a hunted man. He had done nothing worthy of the hatred aimed at him. Yet he was driven into caves, separated from comfort, and forced into a season where survival itself became exhausting. This is where his story becomes especially fitting for your season. It is one thing to trust God when you are still hidden in the field. It is another thing to trust Him when you have already tasted confirmation, yet your life becomes harder instead of easier. Some of your hardest tests came after signs that you were on the right path. You expected progress, but encountered resistance. You expected peace, but found yourself under strange pressure. You expected your calling to make things clearer. Yet in some ways it made the battle more intense. David knew that pain. He carried the anointing, but he did not seize the throne by force. He was tested in the cave, tested in exile, tested in the wilderness, and tested by repeated opportunities to take matters into his own hands. More than once, Saul was placed within David's reach. More than once, David could have ended the threat with a single act of revenge. That was the real examination. Not whether he could fight an obvious enemy, but whether he could restrain himself when a shortcut to power seemed possible. Chosen one, that is one of the greatest hidden tests of all. Can you wait for God's timing when your flesh wants immediate relief? Can you refuse a corrupt path even when it looks efficient? Can you keep your hands clean when pain argues that revenge is justified? David passed because he understood something many people never learn. A promise from God must never be fulfilled through disobedience to God. He would not force what heaven had already spoken. He would not stain his rise by grasping for it too early. He chose restraint over impulse, honor over bitterness, and trust over control. That may be exactly where your own testing has been. Not in whether you could survive obvious hardship, but in whether you could remain surrendered while waiting for what was already yours by promise. You were tested when you had to stay steady around people who misunderstood you. You were tested when you had enough pain to become cold, but still chose to keep your heart open before God. You were tested when quicker paths appeared, but something inside you knew they were not holy. You were tested when the cave felt endless, when your name was misread, when your loyalty was not returned, and when the rise God promised seemed slower than your weary heart wanted it to be. As 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 13 says, "The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David from that day on." Notice the verse does not say every difficulty ended from that day on. It says the Spirit came upon him. That means the mark of God on your life does not remove every battle at once, but it does change who walks with you through the battle. David's journey proves that divine selection is often followed by deep formation. The chosen are not merely appointed, they are shaped. They are. So when you look back on your life, do not dismiss the field, the giant, or the cave. Those were not wasted chapters. They were the hidden tests that revealed your endurance, your restraint, your courage, and your trust. Like David, you have been learning how to carry an anointing before carrying a crown. And that is why your rise, when it comes, will not be shallow. It will rest on a foundation built in secret with God. Chosen one, heaven has watched every battle you fought in silence. And that truth matters more than you know. There were seasons when nobody saw how hard you were trying to stay whole. Nobody saw the prayers you whispered when your strength was nearly gone. Nobody saw the tears you held back because you were tired of explaining pain that words could not fully carry. People may have seen your face, your routine, your effort, even your smile, but they did not see the warfare underneath it all. They did not see the moments when you were holding yourself together by faith alone, yet God saw every second of it. Not one act of endurance escaped his attention. Not one quiet decision to remain faithful was missed by heaven. Not one night of sorrow passed unnoticed before the one who formed your spirit. This is why David speaks so deeply into your season now. David was not only tested in open fields and public confrontations, he was also seen by God in the hidden places where no crowd gathered and no reward appeared. When he fled from Saul, much of his life became a string of caves, wilderness paths, and uncertain tomorrows. He knew what it meant to live under pressure while still carrying a promise from God. He knew what it meant to be hunted even though he had done right. He knew what it felt like to be misunderstood, slandered, and forced into lonely spaces where all he had left was the presence of God. Those cave seasons were not empty chapters. They were sacred records of endurance. Heaven was watching David there just as surely as heaven had watched him when he faced Goliath. You have had cave seasons too. Places where life narrowed and your soul felt pressed from every side. Seasons where your world became quieter, smaller, and more uncertain than you ever expected. In those moments, you may have wondered whether your faithfulness still mattered, because the visible signs were so few. You may have wondered whether your prayers were getting through because the answer seemed delayed. You may have wondered whether being chosen by God was supposed to feel this lonely. But the cave is often where heaven pays the closest attention, because it reveals what remains in you when public strength is stripped away. It is there that your faith becomes real in a different way. No performance, no image, no applause, only you and God, and the truth of who you are becoming under pressure. David did not emerge from those seasons empty. He wrote from them. He cried from them. He worshiped from them. He learned to pour out his soul before God with honesty instead of pretending he felt strong all the time. That is one reason his story reaches so many hearts. He was not polished in a false way. He was real before God. He spoke fear without letting fear become his ruler. He spoke sorrow without letting sorrow define his destiny. He spoke pain, but he kept turning his face toward the Lord. That is what heaven notices in your life too. Not the fact that you felt wounded, but the fact that your wounds did not close your mouth in prayer forever. Not the fact that you felt weary, but the fact that you kept returning to God even in weariness. Not the fact that you were shaken, but the fact that you were not uprooted. There were moments in David's journey when everything around him seemed unstable. He was anointed, yet still pursued. He was gifted, yet still resisted. He was called, yet still hidden. That tension could have made him cynical. It could have turned him inward. It could have taught him to live suspiciously and lose tenderness of heart. But instead, the hidden years deepened him. They gave him language for dependence. They gave him perspective that a throne alone could never teach. They gave him the kind of inner life that can only be formed when the soul has no safe place but God Himself. That is what has been happening in you as well. Your hidden battles have not only hurt you, they have also deepened you. They have taught you to listen more carefully, pray more honestly, discern more clearly, and value the presence of God more than appearances. So when you think back over the years that felt unseen, do not call them empty. Do not call them forgotten. Do not call them proof that nothing was happening. Heaven was recording every private yes. Heaven was witnessing every time you chose not to retaliate. Heaven was marking every prayer spoken through tears, every act of restraint, every moment when you wanted to walk away but stayed faithful anyway. Your hidden life before God is not a wasted life. It is a witnessed life. The cave heard your cries, but heaven carried their meaning. The wilderness felt silent, but God was not absent in it. He was studying the strength being formed in you and preparing to use what the hidden place built. This is why the Psalms carry so much power. They are not distant poetry from a comfortable man. They are songs born in pressure, trust shaped in uncertainty, worship rising from the middle of unfinished battles. David knew that heaven listened when earth felt quiet. He knew that God was near even when people turned away. He knew that the hidden place could become holy ground if the heart kept reaching upward. That is the lesson settling into your spirit now. You have not been abandoned in your silent battles. You have been accompanied through them. And because this message has found you in such a personal way, let it settle gently into your heart and become part of your response. If this word is strengthening you, take a moment to like this message so it can reach another weary soul. Share it with someone who has been fighting silent battles, and subscribe so you can stay connected to what God is unfolding here. And if you feel led to support this work in a deeper way, there is also a place to give through the description. Chosen one, the hidden years are not where your story disappears. They are where its roots go down deepest. God saw David in the cave before men saw him on the throne. In the same way, God has seen you in your own hidden battles. And what He has witnessed there is becoming part of the very strength that will carry your next season. Chosen one, the pressure that has been on your life was never only about pain. It was also about separation. God was using pressure to draw a line between who you were when you were trying to survive and who you are becoming now that heaven is preparing you to rise. Pressure has a way of revealing what comfort keeps hidden. It shows where fear still speaks, where impatience still pulls, where old wounds still ache, and where your soul still needs to be anchored more deeply in God. That is why this season has felt so intense. You are not being crushed without purpose. You are being refined with precision. David knew this kind of pressure well. After the oil of anointing touched his head, life did not suddenly become easy. In many ways, it became more demanding. He was chosen but still hidden. He was marked by God but still misunderstood by people. He carried a promise on his life, but had to walk through long seasons where that promise looked delayed, threatened, and almost impossible. The field trained him. The giant revealed him. But the wilderness pressed him, and it is often the wilderness that does the deepest work in a chosen life. You know what that wilderness feels like. It is the place where you cannot control the timeline. It is the place where answers do not come quickly. It is the place where your own understanding reaches a limit and you are forced to lean on God more honestly than before. In the wilderness, you cannot hide behind noise. You cannot distract yourself forever. You come face to face with what is inside you. That is why this stage is uncomfortable. God is not only dealing with what is around you, He is dealing with what must be healed, strengthened, and purified within you. David could have become another man in the cave. He could have let pain make him harsh. He could have let injustice make him reckless. He could have let delay make him grab for power before the proper time. But the pressure was not only exposing his wounds, and it was shaping his restraint. This is what many people fail to understand. The chosen one is not proven merely by surviving attack. The chosen one is proven by what kind of spirit remains after the attack. You have been pressured, not because heaven wanted to destroy your peace, but because heaven was teaching you how to carry weight without losing yourself. There are parts of your old self that cannot go where God is taking you. The need to be understood by everyone cannot go. The habit of doubting every time the road gets hard cannot go. The impulse to force what God has only promised but not yet released cannot go. The tendency to interpret delay as denial cannot go. Pressure is confronting these things. It is not comfortable, but it is necessary. What feels like loss is often separation from what would have weakened you later. What feels like isolation is often the removal of voices that would have confused your next step. What feels like being pushed to the edge is often the exact place where false supports fall away, and your true dependence on God becomes clear. David learned this in ways that no crown could have taught him. In the cave, he learned to wait. In pursuit, he learned discernment. In hiding, he learned that God's presence can sustain a person even when circumstances offer no comfort. Those lessons were not glamorous, but they were priceless. Without them, the throne would have crushed him. Without them, public honor would have exposed private weakness. Without them, power might have awakened pride instead of purpose. So the cave was not a detour from destiny. It was the refining room for destiny. That is why you must stop reading pressure only as opposition. Yes, some of what has come against you was meant to discourage you. Yes, some resistance was real warfare. But God is so sovereign that even warfare becomes material for your formation. He can use what meant to shake you as the very thing that steadies you. He can use what was meant to isolate you as the place where your hearing becomes sharper. He can use what was meant to make you quit as the furnace where endurance becomes part of your nature. The pressure did not come to prove you had no calling. It came to prove that your calling could survive conflict. And now you are beginning to see it. You do not react as quickly as before. You notice more. You guard your peace more carefully. You value clarity more than noise. You are learning that not every battle deserves your energy and not every opportunity deserves your yes. That is wisdom born under pressure. That is what separation looks like. God is setting you apart from confusion, from emotional impulse, from shallow striving, and from the kind of living that drains the soul and clouds discernment. He is making you more focused, more grounded, and more able to recognize what truly matters. This is why the edge felt so severe. It was the place where your old coping patterns ran out. It was the place where your flesh wanted quick relief, but your spirit needed deeper transformation. It was the place where you had to decide whether you would return to fear or step into trust. And even though you trembled at times, even though you felt stretched beyond what you thought you could bear, you are still here. That means the pressure did not win. It did its work. But it did not take your calling. It exposed weakness, but it also built strength. It revealed your need, but it also deepened your roots in God. And before we move forward, there is one practical thought that may help some listeners who feel mentally drained from prolonged stress, scattered focus, or creative fatigue. Some people are exploring audio tools such as the Genius Wave or Genius Song because they are presented as a simple daily listening practice designed to support focus, calm, clarity, creativity, and mental sharpness in just a few minutes a day. If that kind of support feels relevant to you, you can look for the official details in the description or pinned comment. Please be careful with imitations and only use the official source if you decide to try it. Chosen one, the moment that reveals who you truly are is rarely the moment of comfort. It is usually the moment when pressure has lasted too long, when your heart is tired, when your soul has been carrying injustice in silence, and when a door suddenly opens that seems to offer immediate relief. That is the kind of moment that exposes the real condition of the spirit. Not when everything is calm, but when pain gives you a reason to compromise. Not when the path is easy, but when you are weary enough to justify taking matters into your own hands. This is where many people break. Not always in public failure, not always in dramatic collapse, but in the quiet decision to stop trusting God and seize control. Yet this is also the place where the chosen are revealed in a deeper way. They do not prove themselves by never feeling anger or exhaustion. They prove themselves by refusing to let those feelings become their master. This is why David's story becomes so piercing here. There came a moment in the cave when Saul, the very man hunting him, was placed within reach. The one who had tormented him, pursued him, slandered him, and forced him into wilderness suffering became vulnerable before him. David's men saw it as a perfect opportunity. To them, it looked like divine permission. It looked efficient. It looked justified. It looked like the fastest way out of pain. End the threat. Claim the path. Move into the promise. From a human point of view, it made sense. After all, David had been anointed and Saul had already turned against God's direction. Why not finish the matter and step into what had been spoken over his life? But the most dangerous temptations are often the ones that wear the clothing of logic. They present themselves as practical solutions. They whisper that because you have suffered, you are entitled to act outside of God's timing. They tell you that relief is more important than obedience, that your wounds excuse your shortcuts, that your frustration gives you permission to compromise. This is where the hidden test becomes intense. Can you restrain yourself when the wrong door opens easily? Can you remain loyal to God when disloyalty appears useful? Can you keep your hands clean when revenge feels reasonable? David did not break in that cave. He cut the edge of Saul's robe, but even that act troubled his conscience. This is what sets him apart in such a powerful way. His spirit had been formed deeply enough that even a small movement toward dishonor grieved him. He understood that there are some victories too expensive to claim. He understood that not every opportunity is an assignment. He understood that a promise from God never needs the help of corruption to come to pass. This was the true greatness of David in that moment. Not that he had the strength to strike, but that he had the strength to stop. You know something about this kind of trial. There have been moments when you could have spoken words that would wound deeply, and part of you wanted to. There have been moments when you could have chosen the shortcut, the compromise, the reaction, the manipulative path, the path of self-protection at any cost. There have been moments when pain said, do whatever you must to survive, yet something in your spirit held back. Sometimes it was not a loud triumph. Sometimes it was a trembling restraint. Sometimes it was tears instead of retaliation. Sometimes it was silence instead of revenge. Sometimes it was walking away instead of proving your point. Those moments may have looked small to others, but heaven understood their weight. The truth is that not breaking often looks less dramatic than people imagine. Sometimes it looks like refusing to become cruel after being mishandled. Sometimes it looks like refusing to lie even when truth costs you. Sometimes it looks like continuing to honor God while carrying disappointment you do not know how to explain. Sometimes it looks like keeping your spirit soft when everything around you tempts you to harden. That is what David did. He did not allow the cave to turn him into Saul. He did not let prolonged injustice recreate him in the image of the one who wounded him. He remained under God's authority even while being mistreated by human authority. That is rare strength, and that is why this part of your journey matters so much. The question was never only whether you would reach the promise. The deeper question was what kind of person you would become on the way there. Would power find you purified or polluted? Would elevation find you surrendered or self-made? Would the next season be carried with clean hands or stained ones? These are not small matters before God. Many people want breakthrough, but not many want the inner formation that keeps breakthrough holy. Yet that is what God has been protecting in you. He has not only been preparing a future for you, He has been guarding your spirit from becoming deformed by the journey. David's refusal in the cave became one of the clearest signs that he was ready for more. Even though he still had further shaping ahead, he proved that he could be trusted with destiny because he would not drag destiny down into the dirt to obtain it. He proved that he loved God more than relief. He proved that reverence still ruled him in a moment when emotion could easily have taken over. This is why your private acts of obedience matter so deeply. They are not forgotten. They are building a witness over your life. Heaven knows the moments when you could have betrayed your values and did not. Heaven knows the moments when you could have justified darkness and chose light instead. Heaven knows the moments when you swallowed the urge to grasp, strike, curse, or control, and simply place the matter back into God's hands. As 1 Samuel chapter 24 verse 6 says, "The Lord forbid that I should do such a thing." That sentence carries the strength of a restrained heart. It reminds you that holiness is not weakness. Waiting is not weakness. Refusing revenge is not weakness. Obedience under pressure is not weakness. It is evidence of spiritual maturity. It is proof that your soul is no longer ruled by whatever emotion rises first. So when you remember the moments you did not break, do not dismiss them because nobody celebrated them. Those moments were sacred. They were the places where your character spoke louder than your pain. They were the places where loyalty outlived frustration. They were the places where the fear of God remained stronger than the pressure of the hour. Like David in the cave, you have been tested in places where one wrong move could have changed the texture of your rise, yet you held back. You stayed under God's hand. You let obedience cost you something. And because of that, what is coming next will stand on a stronger foundation than even you can fully see right now. Chosen one, there comes a moment after the long testing when heaven no longer speaks only through endurance, but through release. There comes a moment when the hidden formation, the restraint, the tears, the waiting, the misunderstood obedience, and the private victories begin to gather into one clear verdict. Not the verdict of people, because people often judge too early or too shallowly. Not the verdict of circumstance, because circumstance can look barren even while God is preparing abundance. This is the verdict of heaven. This is the moment when God says that what was being built in secret has reached its appointed maturity for the next step. This is the moment when your suffering is no longer only about survival. It becomes the foundation of authority. David moved toward that moment slowly, painfully, and in ways no impatient heart would have chosen. He did not step into kingship as a man untouched by difficulty. He came through fields, giants, jealousy, caves, wilderness wandering, betrayal, and repeated tests of restraint. He was shaped through loss as much as through promise. He was taught in hiddenness as much as in visible victory. And when the time finally came for change, it did not arrive because David forced it. It arrived because the season of formation had done its work, and God Himself opened what no human hand could permanently close. That is the kind of threshold you are standing near now. Not a self-made rise, a God-released rise. For a long time, your life may have felt like one long proving ground. You kept being asked to stay faithful when you were tired. You kept being asked to trust when clarity was thin. You kept being asked to let go of bitterness when bitterness seemed justified. You kept being asked to remain clean in heart while passing through unclean treatment. Those were not meaningless repetitions. They were layers of formation. Each one was adding weight to your spirit. Each one was teaching you how to carry more without losing God in the process. And now, because of what has been formed in you, the word over your life begins to sound different. No longer only hold on, no longer only endure. Now the word begins to say rise. This matters because not everyone is prepared for the thing they pray for. Many desire elevation, but few have been made ready for its demands. Many want open doors, but not many want the hidden breaking of pride, fear, impulsiveness, and dependency on human approval that makes those doors safe to walk through. God has loved you too deeply to release you too early. He has guarded the promise by guarding you. He has protected the future by refining the vessel. So when the rise begins, it will not be because God changed His mind about you overnight. It will be because the process has prepared you to stand in what He intended all along. David's rise carried this exact pattern. The crown did not create his identity. It revealed what the hidden years had already produced. The throne did not make him a man after God's heart. It exposed that his heart had been shaped through long communion, long restraint, and long surrender. That is why the next phase of your life cannot be read merely as promotion. It is recognition from heaven that something stable has been formed within you. God is not only rewarding outward endurance, He is responding to inward transformation. The test was never merely whether you could survive pressure. The test was whether pressure would deepen your dependence on God or drive you away from Him. And because you kept returning, even bruised, even confused, even weary, a spiritual threshold is opening. This does not mean you suddenly become flawless. David did not become flawless. It means you become entrusted. There is a difference. Entrusted means God has seen enough faithfulness, enough reverence, enough yieldedness, enough tested love to place new weight into your hands. It means the hidden place has produced substance. It means your obedience is no longer fragile in the way it once was. It means you have learned enough in the cave to carry something beyond the cave. That is why the rise may surprise even you. You spent so long enduring that it became difficult to imagine transition. But heaven is not confused about your location in the process. God knows exactly when a season of proving has become a season of release. And still, this verdict must settle in your spirit the right way. God saying you passed does not mean pride gets to enter. It means gratitude should deepen. It does not mean you boast over those still in process. It means you walk more humbly because you know what it costs to be shaped. It does not mean you worship the outcome. It means you honor the one who carried you to it. David understood this in his better moments. He knew that kingship was not a trophy for ego, it was a stewardship under God. That is how you must receive your own rising, not as permission to exalt yourself, but as an invitation to serve at a higher level with a cleaner heart. So breathe this in. The years that made you wonder whether anything was changing were still changing you. The prayers that felt delayed were still gathering before God. The tears that fell in private were not sinking into empty ground. The refusals to compromise, the choices to forgive, the decisions to wait, the willingness to be misunderstood rather than disobedient, all of it has been speaking before heaven. And now the verdict begins to emerge. You passed the kind of tests that cannot be faked. You passed through pressure without surrendering your soul. You passed through delay without murdering the promise in your heart. You passed through pain without fully losing your tenderness before God. Let this message become a marker in your journey. If it is strengthening you, you can quietly support its reach by leaving a like, sharing it with someone standing at their own threshold, and subscribing so you can continue walking through these words with this community. And for those who feel led to help sustain this work more deeply, there is also a way to give through the description. Chosen one, this is not the end of your formation, but it is the end of one kind of waiting. David was not crowned because he had lived an easy life. He was crowned because God had shaped a heart that could carry weight. In the same way, your divine rise does not begin because the road was simple. It begins because the testing has produced something real. Heaven has seen your hidden obedience. Heaven has seen your restraint. Heaven has seen your tears. And now the verdict over your season is changing. What once only looked like pressure is about to be recognized as preparation. What once only felt like delay is about to reveal itself as timing. And what once made you ask whether you would make it through is becoming the very evidence that God can trust you with more. Chosen one. When God begins to lift you after a long hidden season, the change will not make sense to everyone who watched only the surface of your life. Some people knew your cave but not your communion. Some people saw your delay but not your development. Some people noticed your struggle but never understood the strength being formed inside that struggle. That is why divine elevation often confuses human judgment. People measure by appearance, timing, and visible advantage. But God measures by obedience, formation, and the secret history of a soul that stayed yielded under pressure. What heaven is about to do in your life will not be explainable to everyone because not everyone saw what God saw while you were being prepared. David's rise carried that exact mystery. To many eyes, he was still the shepherd boy, still the fugitive, still the one who spent too much time in caves and wilderness places, still the man whose life looked unstable and threatened. But heaven had been reading a different record. Heaven had seen the field where worship was born. Heaven had seen the giant fall before faith. Heaven had seen the cave where restraint proved stronger than revenge. Heaven had seen the years in which David was being hollowed out of pride, self-reliance, and impatience. So when the rise began to take shape, it was not sudden to God. It only looked sudden to those who had not been paying attention to the hidden process. That is what may happen in your own life. People who dismissed you may become startled when doors begin to open. Those who underestimated you may struggle to understand why favor now seems to surround your steps. Those who only knew your exhausted season may not know what to do with the clarity, steadiness, and authority now emerging from you. They may call it luck because they did not witness the prayers. They may call it timing because they did not witness the testing. They may call it a coincidence because they did not witness the long refining that made this moment possible. But you will know, deep in your spirit. You will know that what is coming did not appear out of nowhere. It was grown in secret. There is something sobering about that kind of elevation. It is beautiful, but it also reveals hearts. Some will rejoice sincerely because they always honored what God was doing in you, even before the fruit was visible. Others will become unsettled because your rise forces them to confront how wrongly they measured you. David knew this too. His journey toward public kingship did not make everyone comfortable. The same life that inspired loyalty in some stirred resistance in others. That is the nature of a rise that comes from God. It blesses, but it also exposes. It shows who can celebrate grace and who is secretly offended by it. It reveals who loves the truth of God's choosing and who only feels secure when people remain smaller than their calling. This is why you must enter the next season with humility and clarity. Do not rise with the need to prove anything. David was never at his strongest when he tried to manage perception. His true strength appeared when he stayed anchored in what God had spoken, not in the opinions swirling around him. Your elevation is not a stage for revenge. It is not a platform for pride. It is not an opportunity to wound those who wounded you by displaying what they missed. It is a stewardship. It is the moment where your hidden character must continue to guide your visible life. If the cave taught you dependence, then the rise must still carry that dependence. If the wilderness taught you restraint, then authority must still wear that restraint. Some people will only understand you once the evidence becomes public. That is simply part of the journey. They could not read an anointing they had no language for. They could not interpret a process they had not walked through themselves. So do not let that trouble your spirit. David was no less chosen when he was overlooked by his own household. He was no less chosen when he was chased through barren places. He was no less chosen when the throne still seemed far away. In the same way, your worth was not created by elevation, and it will not be diminished by the confusion of others. God established your identity long before public confirmation arrived. And yet, there is another side to this rise. It will not only surprise those who doubted you, it may also humble you, because you will begin to see how precisely God was arranging each chapter. The field was not random. The giant was not random. The cave was not random. The delay was not random. The misunderstanding was not random. Even the painful waiting contained instruction. When David finally moved into a wider place, every earlier season carried meaning he could see more clearly. That is often how God works. He allows the pattern to become visible after the testing has matured. You begin to realize that what looked like detours were actually protections, and what felt like wasted years were actually foundation years. So when your life begins to expand, do not be shaken by who does or does not understand it. Stay low before God. Stay grateful. Stay watchful over your heart. Stay faithful in the same spirit that carried you through hidden places. The external change must not sever you from the internal lessons that made you ready for it. David's best moments flowed from remembering that he belonged first to God and only then to any public role. That remembrance will protect you too. It will keep your rise clean. It will keep your strength soft instead of arrogant. It will keep your influence useful instead of self-glorifying. As 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 7 says, "Benomotho patelo, man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." That verse explains why your rise may puzzle people. They were reading appearances. God was reading the heart. They were reading the current scene. God was reading the deeper story. They were reading the cave as limitation. God was reading it as preparation. This is why you cannot let human misunderstanding define the value of your journey. The Lord has been looking deeper all along. Chosen one, your elevation will not be an accident. and it will not be a performance. It will be the revealing of what heaven has known through every hidden chapter. Some will be surprised, some will be blessed, some will be unsettled, but your task remains the same. Walk forward without pride. Carry the memory of the cave into the open place. Let gratitude lead you where bitterness once tried to live. And remember that the rise itself is not the final point. The true wonder is that God could trust you enough to bring you from hidden refining into visible purpose without letting the process destroy the tenderness of your heart. Chosen one, every new mantle brings new warfare because every increase in calling attracts a greater demand on your spirit. The moment God begins to move you from hidden endurance into visible purpose, the battle does not disappear. It changes shape. What once attacked your survival may now attack your focus. What once came through obvious pain may now come through subtle distraction. Quiet pride, emotional exhaustion, spiritual carelessness, or the temptation to think that because you have come this far, you no longer need the same depth of dependence on God. But the truth is the opposite. The higher the calling, the deeper the roots must go, the wider the influence, the more guarded the heart must be. The stronger the mantle, the more necessary humility becomes. David's life reveals this with sobering clarity. He was not only tested on the way to the throne, he was tested after he began to carry the responsibilities connected to it. The new season did not mean less need for watchfulness. It meant more. He had moved beyond the field. He had survived the cave. He had entered a wider place of authority. Yet with that authority came greater spiritual responsibility. His decisions now touched more lives. His private condition now mattered even more because the weight in his hands had increased. This is the lesson that meets you here. God does not raise you so you can become casual. He raises you so you can become even more anchored, even more discerning, and even more surrendered. There is a kind of warfare that only appears when a person steps closer to purpose. Before, the enemy may have tried to make you quit. Now he may try to make you drift. Before, the pressure was meant to crush your hope. Now it may try to dull your alertness. Before, the battle shouted through crisis. Now it may whisper through compromise, through spiritual fatigue, through self-trust that slowly replaces prayer, through busyness that steals intimacy, and through the illusion that outward movement is the same as inward strength. This is why the new mantle must be carried with holy attention. You cannot wear it well if you stop guarding the secret place. David knew the beauty of God's favor. But his story also warns that favor does not replace vigilance. A person can be deeply called and still need daily surrender. A person can be genuinely anointed and still need to keep the heart clean before God. The new warfare is often not just about obvious opposition. It is about whether success will pull you away from the very dependence that sustained you in hidden seasons. In the cave, you pray because you know you need God. In a wider place, you must choose that same prayerfulness even when your circumstances no longer force you to the ground in the same way. That is maturity. Not crying out only when desperate, but remaining near because you know you are nothing without Him. This is why your next season must not be entered half awake. You cannot carry a divine assignment with a sleepy spirit. You cannot handle sacred weight while feeding every distraction that reaches for your attention. You cannot steward what God is opening if your inner life becomes scattered, reaction-driven, and thin. The mantle requires more from you, not because God is harsh, but because what He is placing in your hands is precious. Your peace must be guarded. Your habits must become cleaner. Your discernment must become sharper. Your yes must become more thoughtful. Your no must become stronger. Not every voice deserves access to your inner world. Not every invitation belongs in your future. Not every urgent feeling is a true direction from God. Chosen one, this is where many people misunderstand spiritual growth. They think elevation means arrival. In truth, elevation often means deeper stewardship. It means you are now responsible to carry what God has trusted you with in a way that honors Him. David's life shows both the strength and danger of this reality. When he walked closely with God, his leadership carried blessing, stability, and worship. When his guard lowered, the consequences reached far beyond himself. That is why the lesson here is so important. Your rise must be matched by your reverence. Your increase must be matched by your discipline. Your wider impact must be matched by a deeper inward life. You have already learned much in hidden places. You learned how to survive loneliness. You learned how to wait. You learned how to restrain yourself. Now you must learn how to remain soft before God while carrying greater weight. You must learn how to keep the altar burning when life becomes fuller. You must learn how to return quickly when conviction comes. You must learn how to resist the subtle traps that come with movement, recognition, and responsibility. This is not a fearful word, and it is a strengthening word. God does not reveal the nature of the warfare to discourage you. He reveals it so you can walk prepared. And the good news is that the same God who sustained you in the cave will sustain you under the mantle. He has not brought you this far to abandon you in the next stage. He is calling you closer, not merely upward. Closer in attention, closer in surrender, closer in obedience, closer in holy fear. Your strength will not come from trying harder in the flesh. It will come from remaining aligned with the one who called you. The mantle is not carried by talent alone. It is carried by grace, and grace flows most clearly through the yielded heart. As 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8 says, "Be sober-minded and watchful." That is not the language of panic. It is the language of readiness. It reminds you that spiritual maturity requires awareness. You are not called to be paranoid. You are called to be awake. Awake to your weaknesses, awake to God's voice, awake to the cost of carelessness, awake to the beauty of staying near. So step into this part of the journey with confidence, but not with carelessness. Let the lessons of David steady you. Let hidden years continue to guide visible years. Let your heart remain teachable. Let prayer remain natural. Let reverence remain alive. And if this word is landing deeply in your spirit, comment. Stay awake. That simple response can become your own reminder that the new mantle must be carried with open eyes, a guarded heart, and a life that remains close to God no matter how high He lifts you. Chosen one. There comes a sacred point in your journey when you can no longer think of yourself only as the one who survived. You must begin to understand yourself as the one who is now responsible to walk wisely with what God has entrusted. This is the shift from merely enduring the process to consciously carrying the purpose. It is one thing to pray for a crown while you are still in the cave. It is another thing to wear that crown with a sober mind, a clean heart, and an alert spirit. The rise means little if you arrive unawake. The blessing becomes dangerous if it is carried without humility. The open door becomes heavy if you step through it without remembering the lessons the wilderness taught you. This is why your next step is not only upward, it is inward. You must walk into what God is giving you fully awake. David shows you both the beauty and the seriousness of this truth. When he finally entered the place God had prepared, he was no longer merely the overlooked shepherd or the hunted fugitive. He was now a man whose choices would affect a nation. His private life could no longer be separated from his public assignment. His inner condition mattered deeply because his authority had widened. And in his better moments, David understood this. He knew that kingship was not permission to live carelessly. It was a call to steward something holy. It was not simply about being lifted above others. It was about serving under God with greater responsibility than before. That is where your spirit must settle now. You are not stepping into your calling to feed your ego. You are stepping into it to fulfill something larger than yourself. The cave taught you dependence. The field taught you faithfulness. The wilderness taught you restraint. Now the rise must teach you stewardship. You must become intentional about how you think, how you choose, how you speak, how you guard your peace, and how you respond when new weight comes into your hands. The old version of you may have been focused on making it through the day, but the strengthened version of you must now ask deeper questions. Does this decision honor God? Does this relationship support the direction of my calling? Does this habit sharpen my discernment or dull it? Does this opportunity align with purpose or only flatter ambition? To walk fully awake means you stop drifting. You stop assuming that because God chose you, you can now move carelessly. David's life warns against that illusion. He was deeply loved by God, yet even he needed vigilance. His story proves that calling is real, anointing is real, favor is real, but none of those things remove the need for daily surrender. That is why the awakened heart remains low before God. It never graduates from dependence. It never outgrows prayer. It never becomes too advanced to need correction. It does not confuse past victories with present immunity. It stays teachable because it understands how much is at stake. You are being invited into that kind of maturity now. Not a fearful maturity, but a clear one. Not a rigid life, but a rooted one. You must know what you carry. You must know what can weaken it. You must know what feeds your spirit and what drains it. You must know that some things which once seemed harmless can no longer travel with you into this next season. Delay made some compromises impossible because you had no access to them. But increase will test you differently. Access can become a test. Recognition can become a test. Comfort can become a test. Influence can become a test. This is why awakening matters. You need eyes to see what the next season requires. David at his best understood that the throne itself was not his security. God was. That is a vital lesson for you. Your new season is not your source. Your gift is not your source. Your platform is not your source. The affirmation of people is not your source. God remains your source, your anchor, your covering, and your judge. The moment you forget that, the crown becomes too heavy for your soul. But when you remember it, authority can remain healthy because it rests under heaven instead of trying to replace heaven. The awakened heart knows how to carry privilege without worshiping it. It knows how to receive increase without being mastered by it. It knows how to move forward with gratitude instead of entitlement. And this matters because your calling is not meant to terminate on you. David's best acts of leadership were not about self-display. They were about preserving life, establishing order, honoring God, and creating space for others to flourish. In the same way, your rise is not only about your relief after hardship. It is about what God can release through you now that your life has been deepened by testing. The pain you survived has given you compassion. The delay you endured has given you patience. The hidden years have given you discernment. The battles you fought have given you language for the weary. These are not accidental outcomes. They are part of how God makes a vessel useful. You are not just being raised so you can say you made it. You are being raised so your life can carry substance that blesses, strengthens, protects, and points others back to God. So walk carefully, chosen one. Not timidly but carefully, not doubting the call but honoring it. The awakened life does not stumble through sacred assignments half asleep. It treats the season with reverence. It understands that what is coming next will require more truthfulness, more discipline, more listening, and more humility. It says yes to growth again. It says yes to correction again. It says yes to God not only as deliverer, but also as Lord. That is what makes the rise sustainable. Not excitement alone, but alignment. As Psalm chapter 78 verse 72 says, "And David shepherded them with integrity of heart, and with skillful hands he led them." That verse captures the balance you need. Integrity of heart and skillful hands, inner purity and outer wisdom, devotion and competence, surrender and stewardship. You need both. God is not calling you to walk into your crown with passion alone. He is calling you to walk into it awake, with a heart that stays honest before Him, and hands that become steady in what they are assigned to do. This is your threshold now. The survivor in you has done its work. The one who endured the hidden place has been faithful. But now the steward must rise. Now the awakened one must stand. Now the version of you that remembers the cave, honors the field, and carries the lessons of the wilderness must walk forward with open eyes. David's story is not only about being chosen, it is about learning to carry what was given in a way that honors the giver. That is your invitation too. Step into your crown fully awake, and let every lesson God taught you in secret become strength for the purpose you are now called to carry in the light. Chosen one, this is not the end of your story. This is the end of one kind of waiting and the beginning of a new kind of walking. You have come too far to speak over your life with the language of defeat. You have cried too many tears, survived too many private wars, resisted too many wrong doors, and stayed under God's hand through too many hard seasons to call yourself forgotten now. The rise beginning in your life is not built on fantasy, it is built on formation. It is built on the field that taught you faithfulness, the cave that taught you restraint, the wilderness that taught you dependence, and the long silence that taught you how to hear God without needing constant signs. This is why what starts now carries such weight. You are not stepping into something shallow. You are stepping into something prepared. David's journey leaves you here with a final and steady truth. God does not waste the hidden years of the chosen. He uses them. He folds them into the strength, wisdom, tenderness, and seriousness that the next season will require. David did not arrive at his place of influence as a man untouched by sorrow. He arrived as one who had been shaped by it, corrected by it, humbled by it, and carried through it. That is why his life still speaks. It reminds you that the rise of the chosen is never only about being lifted. It is about becoming able to carry what God places in your hands. And that is what heaven has been doing in you all along. You may still have moments where your heart looks back and remembers how painful the process was. That is natural. You may still feel the echo of the nights when you were unsure of what God was doing. You may still remember the people who misunderstood you, the doors that closed, the places where your strength felt almost gone. But now you must learn to remember without returning. You must look back only long enough to recognize what God brought you through. Then turn your face forward again. The field is behind you. The cave is behind you. The wilderness has done its work. The next step is not to relive those places forever. The next step is to carry their lessons into the future with gratitude and clarity. This is where your spirit must become settled. You do not have to force what God is opening. You do not have to beg for what heaven has already marked for you in the proper time. You do not have to panic over timing that belongs to God. Your task is to stay aligned, stay humble, stay prayerful, stay awake, and walk as one who knows that the hand of God has been on your life even in the most confusing seasons. You are not arriving empty-handed. You are arriving with testimony. You are arriving with discernment. You are arriving with compassion that only suffering could deepen and with stability that only testing could build. And so let this become a prayer in your spirit now. Father, in the name of Jesus, thank you for every season you carried this chosen one through. Thank you for the hidden places, even the painful ones, because nothing was wasted in your hands. Thank you for every battle that did not destroy them, every delay that did not cancel them, every closed door that protected them, and every test that formed something holy within them. Lord, heal every place that still feels bruised from the journey. Strengthen every weak place, quiet every fearful thought. Wash away every lie that says they are too late, too broken, or too worn down for what you have prepared. Let your peace settle over their mind. Let your wisdom guard their steps. Let your presence become more precious than ever before. Teach them to carry this next season with humility, courage, discernment, and joy. Keep their heart clean. Keep their spirit awake. Keep their motives pure. And as you lift them, let them never drift from you. Let their life bring glory to your name, strength to the weary, and hope to those still walking through their own hidden tests. Confirm your word over them with peace, with clarity, and with doors no man can shut. In Jesus' name, amen. Chosen one, receive that prayer as more than comfort. Receive it as alignment. The God who sustained you in the dark will not lose sight of you in the light. The God who trained you in private will not fail you in public. The God who guarded David through fields, giants, caves, and kingdoms is the same God who is guiding your steps now. So do not shrink back from this hour. Do not talk yourself out of your own becoming. Do not stand at the edge of answered prayer and call it impossible simply because the process was long. Rise gently, but rise fully. Walk softly, but walk boldly. Stay low before God, but do not live small when heaven is calling you forward. And as this message closes, let your response be simple and sincere. If it has spoken to your spirit, you can like it so more people in hidden battles can find it. You can share it with someone who needs courage for their next step. You can subscribe if you want to stay connected to more messages like this. And for those who feel led to help support this work in a deeper way, there is a way to give through the description. Now take one more deep breath and let your soul settle into this truth. You passed through the fire and did not lose your calling. You walked through pressure and did not surrender your soul. You were tested in secret and heaven kept record. Your divine rise does not begin because people finally see you. It begins because God has finished something in you that the hidden years were designed to produce. So go forward with peace. Go forward with gratitude. Go forward with clean hands and an awakened heart. What begins now is not fragile because it has been forged in God. Let this final truth remain with you after the words fade. You are not chosen because you never felt weak. You are chosen because God kept drawing you back to Himself through every weakness. You are not rising because you were perfect. You are rising because grace kept shaping you when life could have hardened you. You are not standing here by chance. You are standing here by mercy, by refinement, by obedience, and by the faithful hand of God. Stay close to Him. Stay true to what He taught you. Stay humble in the blessing. Stay awake in the calling. And when the road opens wider, remember the field. Remember the cave, remember the wilderness, and remember above all that the one who began this work in you is faithful to complete it.